So our theme this month is how spirit shines through. And today's topic is no limit on spiritual choice. I'm going to be talking again about Elegant Choices, Healing Choices, the book that I talked about last week. And I made reference to another book by that author, Marcia Sinitar. The book, Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow. I misquoted the title last week, but it is correctly, Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow. So our path this month in these talks is actually fourfold. First, to understand and to practice spiritual mind treatment. We heard some very poignant stories this morning about spiritual mind treatment in our Standing in the Light. And these are the actuals that back up that statement of understanding and practicing that as a part of your spiritual practice. The second thing that we're addressing this month is to develop our faith in the realization that God, the God that we seek, is already within us. And that our quest is to accept that word accept, so important, to accept that as we build on our understanding of the power of that partnership. It's a partnership. It's not out there somewhere. It's in here and around here all the time. And then the third thing that we're addressing on this path this month is to be clear in our intentions in spiritual mind treatment and to make life-affirming choices for our own health and healing. And then the fourth process in this path is to set no limits on this entire process. Rather than falling back on something that you've heard before or seen before, to know that you are always in a groundbreaking, moving forward process in your spiritual practice when there are no limitations in your mind, in your ordinary mind, with regard to spirit, creative energy flowing by means of you in positive and life-affirming ways. So, but before I go further into this topic of placing no limits on spiritual principles or choices, I want to spend a little more time on Elegant Choices, the book. Because the actual title of the book is Elegant Choices, Healing Choices. So here's some more excerpts from it with regard to the healing part of that. Healing choices are consciously made. We notice what we have done, and despite any struggle or hardship along the way, the result pleases us. We know and we say within ourselves, this is for the best. This is good. I'm glad I did this. This is one of the best things I've ever done. You see, I'm aligning with that in a positive way. The second thing that Marcia brings up about the healing choices is that they're virtuous ones. Our own purity and goodness shines through as we make these choices, even if only to us, because that's what matters, is how am I living this? And eventually, our good always flows through us. The third thing she talks about is that healing choices demonstrate commitment to our own core self. The values and the desires of the real self grow and are revealed. Next, she says, healing choices express and let us better understand ourselves, how we like to do things, what we stand for, what we find pleasing, necessary, and life-enhancing. In time, our choices become symbolic of the essential aspects of our core self. It's that going within and finding the magnificence that's already there. Next, healing choices are being values, B-E-I-N-G, being values. That is, qualities or attributes of the divine. Values like truth, courage, patience, order, compassion, love for self and for others, and forgiveness as expressed through each of these choices. Healing takes many forms, and each is complete and perfect in and of itself. It's also a very personal thing, both precious and unique for each person and each experience. Because when I talk about healing, I'm not just talking about physical healing. Certainly that is a major part. But I'm also talking about the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual healings that unfold as we come to know ourselves and the value of who and what we truly are. One of the ways in which we address this is to do so individually and confidentially. And I'm so pleased that some of you have chosen to grant me the opportunity to do that with you and on your behalf, so that we can work one-on-one and thereby address the things that are important to you individually in a setting where there is comfort and safety. So now I'd like to use the rest of our time together this morning on a phrase used by Ernest Holmes in his Science of Mind text in the section on spiritual mind healing. This is the technique by which we lay hold of mind power and prove its practicality. The phrase that I refer to is place no limit on spiritual principle. And this is really powerful stuff. When Holmes wrote the Science of Mind text in the early 1900s, he said this: "The day for incredulous skepticism or shallow criticism of the power of thought has passed. Unless we discredit all human testimony, we are forced to the conclusion that bodily healing of all manner of sickness by mental and spiritual means is a fact. Physicians of highest repute," he continued, "are assiduously betaking themselves to a serious study of mental phenomenon and mental processes. They're analyzing the incredible possibilities of dominion resident in the dynamic forces of the mental realm. A belief in and an acceptance of healing by mental processes has arrived in the most orthodox of medical circles and is being increasingly approved as a legitimate and useful healing agent. And we've talked many times about aligning that which supports you for your highest and best in a number of ways. That Holmes talks about the use of medical procedures, whether that be surgery, medication, therapy, whatever, as an adjunct to the mental healing work that we do is accessing the best of those processes. Can anyone work in the absence of other? Yes. Can neither work in the absence of other? Yes. Can one process be sufficient? Yes. or no, depending upon our belief, our intent, our trust, and our faith. Holmes urges us to know our own mind and to train ourselves to think what we wish to think, to be what we wish to be, and to feel what we wish to feel. In other words, place no limits on spiritual principle expressing by means of each of us. This is about knowing that the words we speak, as I said earlier this morning, are all powerful. Knowing this within ourselves, not just through the intellect. When our inner consciousness believes, our word is simply an announcement of reality. It's about aligning our inner self, the very cells of our physical being, as well as the thoughts of our eternal mind, bringing them into sync so that they're moving together in sync. Know, without the shadow of a doubt, that as a result of your spiritual mind treatment, some action takes place in infinite mind. Remember that infinite mind is the creator, and that you are the director of that action. Allow your thought to become clear and set no limits on the outcome for your own greatest good. Constructively, abundantly, healthfully, lovingly. There's nothing in universal law or in the spirit back of the law to deny us the right to the greatest possibility expression of life at nobody else's expense. So we remember that the very basis of the science of mind is the use of spiritual practice in support of all types of healing. And we've explored the ways in which we use spiritual mind treatment as a practical application in our spiritual practices. We've learned that integral to the ways in which we use and benefit from affirmative prayer is for us to set clear intentions and to make elegant choices from the limitless array of opportunities that Spirit provides for us to choose from. Furthermore, we now understand that we place no limits on the spiritual practices that support and guide our choices. I have a caveat, though, something to caution you about regarding the use of affirmative prayer. My almost 4-year-old great-granddaughter, Addie, who has been visiting with her family the last 2 weeks, has a word that she recently learned, and she simply loves using that word constantly. That word is really? Really? Always with that question mark at the end. Really? It's her favorite response to just about anything anybody says to her. So it was in my mind when I heard the following conversation twice this past week from 2 different people. It went something like this. I'm just doing spiritual mind treatment constantly all day long these days. And in my mind, I heard the word, really? But my words came out for the same thing over and over? No, were the replies. 2 different people. I mean, this was like they taped it and read it to me. Something different every time. And once again, I heard in my mind, really? So here's the thing, folks. It's wonderful to know and trust that our intentions are best addressed in communion with our source of being. It's equally commendable to clarify in our ordinary mind those things, those ideas, those challenges that we have chosen to work on, to work through, or to work with. And it's even more important to make a list of those And as you've heard me say repeatedly, prioritize them in the order of importance as you see it. Because often, when you address the intention at the top of your list, some of the others are healed in the process as well. Really? Really? So I'm really sincere when I share with you that spiritual practice, and specifically spiritual mind treatment, is not a penance. It's not a trial. It's not a marathon. It's also not a speech to convince God that you need all these things. It is the alignment of your own body, mind, and essence with a universal creative energy that lacks nothing. As Karen Drucker has so cleverly expressed in one of her songs, relax, let go, release, surrender. Enjoy the journey of discovery, the awakening of the beauty of your uniqueness. Savor the success of each individual spiritual mind treatment unfolding in your life. Allow each demonstration of your spiritual practice to be appreciated and magnified by you. And it is really true that one spiritual mind treatment regarding an intention is all it takes when you really believe. Wow, that's powerful stuff, isn't it? This is faith in practical application in the moments of our lives, the ever unfolding moments of our lives. In my generation, we would say, can you dig it? In today's world, it might be expressed as, you hear? Or perhaps even in text messaging as G for I, go for it. Or IGTT, IGTP, I get the point. But however we express it, this is faith in action, using universal, natural, and spiritual functions to further our good at no one else's expense. It's inconceivable to think that the power and the synchronicity of the cosmos was meant to destroy its own creations. Our attention and our actions for our own good and for the greater good can not only dissipate that false belief, they can actually erase it from our own minds and erase it from the collective consciousness of humankind. So let this power of good that flows through you be your elegant choice and your healing choice. Really? Really? And so it is.